everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Dance Talk Realness, a podcast where we discuss all nuances concerning education and dance, because a dance experience is an experience worth talking about. Today, we are joined by our lovely guest, Miss Mindy Rawlinson. Hey, Mindy.
Hi.
Thanks for coming back. And y'all know Daryl, I kidnapped him. He officially lives here now. Before we jump into everything, today's quote is from Erica Edwards, and she says, "Winning at checkers when you are playing chess isn't winning at all." Real talk conversation.
Real.
Like, let me just say, I saw that quote and I was reminded of a conversation I had with someone that it's funny because they're probably going to hear this and be like, why you put me out there? But it's okay. I'm not going to drop names. It's fine. But always saying that I'm playing chess. And I'm like, I be playing checkers all the time. I don't know how to play chess. And it's like, But you do know that when you're playing a game, but you're playing the wrong version, it's not going to work out. Not going to benefit you. And I'm like,
not it.
Struggles. So it's fun because with the person who shall not be named, I swear it'd be a chess game for real, but I legit be playing checkers. I'd be like, I don't know. I don't be trying hard enough to win any conversation. So I'd be on the losing end, but it's okay. We're working through that. All right, my loves. Today we are going to be talking about dance as political. I especially wanted to talk with y'all. I have one other person. We're going to do a part 2 next week because you're some of the people I know who do pieces that do have more political leanings at times. And so I just want to pick your brains a little bit. I feel like also in our current climate, I've seen a lot more conversations around dance being political. And so for people who don't really understand how dance fits into that world, I would like to start that discussion of kind of offering insight. So I guess it'll be a little less of reaffirming for us as dancers and more as a point of clarification for those who are not in the field. Yes, because I definitely don't want to say an explanation because we ain't got to explain ourselves to anybody. But that being said, just a point of clarification. So when we say these things, these people who are not in the field can also get an understanding. I think, to me, we offer just another piece of the puzzle. And I think it's helpful for people to understand and be reminded that there's not only one piece to this puzzle of this fight that we are all fighting, for those of us who are, that there are different pieces. And even those of us who are fighting within the same field, we still have our own different segments that we choose to focus on. Slight tangent before we jump into it. I don't understand the concept of thinking that you can't do multiple things at once and you can't think of multiple things and you can't support multiple causes. I don't understand that. It bothers my spirit. I had a conversation about it with someone yesterday and I was like, that actual angers me because I'm like, well, if we're talking about police brutality, I can also still have conversations about women's rights, and I can still have conversations about the trash school system. Like, I can still have these conversations, but if we're in the moment talking about specifically police brutality, then that's all I'm talking to you about, because that's the topic at hand. And it confuses me that one of the arguments against that is, oh, but what about this? And it's like, what about that? We weren't talking about that. I'm aware of that, but that's not what we were talking about. And I just wanted to detour for a second into that. It's been bothering me for like 12 hours now that I'm just like, this is why I don't read the comments under things. I say what I gotta say and I dip. Like this is why I don't read comments under other people's stuff for this reason, because there's always gonna be that person that's just like, that's not what we were talking about.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to put that out there. Thanks for the detour.
Thank you.
We can also talk about that, but
yes,
I just needed to get that off my spirit because it's been bothering me for about 12 hours now, and I'm just like, okay,
yeah.
Y'all can jump in, child.
Go ahead, Daryl. If you
go ahead, sir, you got
it. Sorry, there's just so many things that I'm wrapping my head around.
Apology
about
rejected.
Like no sorry's needed.
Yeah, like what? Yeah, kind of going off of what you just said, truly about those bringing up different conversations when bring up different topics when the conversation is not that topic. But it's like, yes, being able to go back and forth between that, like, yes, we can talk about other things at the same time. But when the topic is the topic is the topic. I think for me, sometimes when I'm choreographing something that I do want it to be like this big statement piece, right? Like sometimes, I don't know if you guys have that same thing where like sometimes I'm like, ooh, it's this, but then it's also kind of this too.
Yeah.
And so like sometimes I know like I struggle because I don't want, if I have a topic in mind that I do want to try to express through movement, like I don't want to muddy the main topic with like other things that kind of come up. But I think that just comes with like depending on the dancers that you have. I mean, everybody brings their own experiences to a piece, and so sometimes it's sometimes those waters do get muddy a little bit, but
yeah, I think to circle around to what you opened with, truly, on dance as political,
mm-hmm.
and tapping into what Daryl was mentioning, is, for me, the body is political. Right? And so when we look at the body, and specifically within our American culture, and titles, labels, stereotypes that are placed onto the body, and then that the way that individuals identify, show up through embodiment. And when I think about dance, those, the ways that the body can be read by someone else, just even gestures that become, mapped and scored throughout different bodies, all of that has the potential to be amplified through dance. And when, I've had times when people have addressed me as, dance is just entertainment. It doesn't have to be so serious. Mm-hmm. Why are you so serious? And for me, during this time of the pandemic and having time and space to rest and reflect, mm-hmm. I think of these moments of dance as almost life-saving, in the sense of I haven't been able to express certain things through my voice, because until I went to grad school and learned how to be more articulate, but and that this, this body that I have is a thinking, moving, experienced, lived body, and the sensations that I feel and experience through dance, and then the realization that, oh, I can communicate and not just entertain and comment on certain ways of living and being through this art form. That's just what keeps me going as a maker. And so I don't know. Oh, I think, I'm a huge feminist. The personal is political. It comes down to the body. Dance, I think, is the ultimate art form that gets to challenge and complicate our notions of being and expressing those ways of being.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think a point that for me is connecting between both of you, this idea of being able to express so much and explore so much through our movement, and that concern with muddying the waters is, I think, when dealing with movement, when dealing with the body, when setting work, when doing works, that I am slightly more willing to allow some of that muddying to occur, because as humans, that's how we are. We're not so cut and dry, so separate, so easily boxed in as some people would like us to be. But I also am very much about, but if I want to say this one thing, I still need to be able to articulate that. And I think for me, I think I'm the opposite, Mindy, is that I could say it to you, but telling it to you through the movement is what grad school did for me. And that was just like, oh, so this is how I can say this. And without me having to write a dissertation and talk you through that, this is how I can show that. But I think that muddying is going to occur no matter what. And I think a better way to say it is that I think my issue lies within, my issue lies within when people intentionally try to muddy the waters, and they intentionally try to take away from what the message is. And I've had that happen even with interpretations of choreography, that I'm like, that's what you focused in on? That's clearly not the main thing here. I couldn't address the big topic without mentioning this, but that's clearly not what we were talking about. But it's almost like people want to find that little nitpick just to prove their point, but for why?
And then that's right. That's the complications of art, right? That it's open up for interpretation.
Yes.
Everyone comes from different, varied lived experiences, and you just never know what people are bringing to the table.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah. I get what you're saying with and I think that does become the interesting thing about dance as an art form, because you can have so many different ideas, and people can bring something very straightforward and intentional, and they can also bring something that's very unclear, very abstract. And so I think that then kind of takes me to I guess what we were saying, how we don't need to explain anything to anybody that's not in the field. But then when we want that when we want our audience to get it, right? We want you to get it. We want you to, I don't know what that it is sometimes, and sometimes us as choreographers don't know what the it is, but we want you to get it. So it's how I guess it depends on your audience, how open you want them to be how much you set them up with just maybe your background. Maybe if it's particular to a certain city that you're in, that maybe some of the choreography or the phrasing has to do, or the idea has something to do with like their community, which I think could be really easy to access that. Or if it is something that's abstract, it's something that they can connect to. But yeah, no, I think, when we're able to, make those statements or make those pieces, how much of it do we, or should we think about the audience's openness, as far as to really translate what we're trying to say through the movement?
I feel like we've had this conversation in class before, Mindy. Like, I vividly remember this coming up. That's like, okay, but how much autonomy are we giving the audience?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it varies. I feel like that varies. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I'm never like, I want you to see this, but
right.
I think this is a great conversation, what you guys bring up, especially when we think about June 2020 and what is the audience right now for dance, and where is dance showing up is on the screen, right? Or there are those towns and areas that are doing sort of like social distancing, like site-specific works that I've seen. I think something's happening in Tampa, and I saw something, read an article about it happening in Seattle, and with those performances, right, especially online, now you're paying to subscribe, or you pay to have access to a Vimeo link, and then you have the choice to like pause and walk away, or close it out. And I think there's this more agency with the audience now, which ties back to, for some of I go back and forth all the time. I think it depends on where I am in my life and what's going on. But I'm like, if you have the agency to show up to a performance, you have the agency to leave. But then I understand it does get complicated when like financial exchange happens, right? That you paid, and now there's a certain level of expectation. So then, I think I take what Daryl said into consideration as far as like community, who's showing up to this performance, right? Is it most likely going to be a bunch of students? Well, then maybe we need to put a trigger warning or something if there's language or scenes or that's a whole nother box of worms. I feel like because maybe not, but I know that I sit differently with trigger warnings than I did 2 years ago. Like I would say yes, and now I'm like, well, I don't think so. Maybe through PR or through like posters or advertisements, you can kind of warn audiences, or just sort of like movie ratings, right? But I think it's complicated. For me, I think when I make work, I don't I think I used to think a lot about the audience, but now it's more about the agency of the performers and the collaboration. And then, of course, I try to take care, but again, I feel like it's a little bit of a wild card.
So which I think is fair, because I think coming from the background of predominantly my work was being shown to like students and parents, that I had to be very conscious of my audience.
Yes.
I am now a lot less so, which is lovely. But I think what really kind of came to my mind once I started getting freedom from that was I realized, I was like, but you can't ever really completely warn everyone enough. Like there will always be someone who it just, even if you laid out like, okay, so at like 35 minutes and 15 seconds, there's going to be this specific movement between these specific dancers that may trigger you if you've experienced X, Y, Z. And there will still be someone who says, well, I don't understand why this was there and you should have done. And it's like, but I told you though. And so part of me, not that you shouldn't give a heads up sometimes, because for some things I'm like, nah, give me the heads up. Let me be able to make the decision on whether or not I want to participate in this. But also it's like, it's like y'all work it out maybe. Not to be callous about it, but work it out maybe. Cause I don't, you even, because it relates to me to the idea of you can't please everyone. That even if, you know, the two of you love the piece, then somebody over here is going to still be like, it was fine, or they hated it. So no matter what I do, I feel like it won't be sufficient. So I'm like, I'm going to just give you this generic, heads up. And then we're going to keep it pushing. I haven't tried this out yet, though, to be clear. So not sure how it's going to pan out for me. We're going to try. But usually, like, I don't think I do a lot of things that would be triggering. I might just be saying that, though. I might be making that up just to make myself feel better, because I potentially could be out here setting a lot of people off. And my apologies if I've done so unknowingly. That was not my intent.
I think this is, you know, this is some of the politics of dance, right? At some point, you know, I think it's a privilege to get to a point where you can say, I'm going to make the work that I want to make. Right. I mean, that's like, that's a huge goal of mine, to just be like, I just want to make the work I want to make. And I guess that's why I keep showing up and like try to keep making work to see who will let, you know, who's going to support me. But, you know, versus how much you let the audience censor you. But what, like you guys said, politics of accessibility, of location, you know, who has access to come to the performance venue, all of that.
Right.
A lot to consider.
So, question, this is not one of the written down ones, because as y'all know, I wasn't prepared. It's fine. Not going to edit it out. Y'all know. So with this idea of access and kind of the situation we're in now, my question is, do you feel as though dance is potentially kind of, this sounds way dramatic, but kind of backsliding into that space of not being as accessible to everyone again? Or let me give a few more clarifying thoughts with that. Not being as accessible in the sense of not only access to like online platforms, but also being able to make those payments, because some, and I'm not mad at them, because you got bills to pay too. I get it. But the financial aspect on top of everything that's also occurring, of which, not saying good or bad, but do you think not necessarily going into the exact same realm that it used to be in, but maybe a new version?
Yeah, I don't know. I think from what I've personally have seen, I think that I've seen it be a little bit more accessible, just because I think a lot of people, a lot of companies, a lot of organizations are doing a lot of free offerings. I think just to, if for nothing else, just to allow their people to have movement, to have purpose, to maybe have meaning. And so it's like, let's continue to do this, but let's maybe offer it for free. For instance, some of my dance team students are able to participate in this online camp that is actually based in, I think it's like based in Missouri somewhere. And they obviously, there's no way we were going to get to Missouri. So they're able to actually work with, two dancers, one of them actually being a former student of mine from Texas, but they're even able to have that experience with her that I would not have been able to offer them that any other way, because A, because of where we're located, B, because, in order to get somebody to work in my county, they have to basically promise their firstborn child. And
true statement.
No,
true statement. I tried to get Mindy up here while I was still in the county, and it was just like, this is a bit much. It's fine. We'll figure it out.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it is way too much. But so it's very I think that a lot of my students have gotten a lot more opportunities to just experience things, to see things. And so I think that has been great. But what I do think, kind of to where you were saying about it backsliding, what is the sustainability of that? You know what I mean? Like, who knows how long we're going to have to do this? And, could they potentially continue to offer these types of programs at the prices that they're offering them at the, at no cost at all? So yeah, I will be interested to see after the summer what this will look like, because I think a lot of places were very dark, you know what I mean, like just not a lot of things going on. And I think as people started to see that, okay, this is going to be like potentially a long time, I think they decided to try to open things as virtually, do things as virtually as they could or as they can. And so I think right now we're just kind of in that phase where it's like, okay, let's try this out virtually. Let's just offer it for free. And maybe after that, then they'll start charging. And I think that potentially might be where we see things like, these prices are going up. People can't afford to do that. Or just, and just having taught dance for 2 months on a computer, it is not the easiest thing to do. I think for the person teaching, and also for the person taking class. But the good thing is, I guess, kind of side note, is that I think that it's definitely doable. And I think that, I think we are fortunate as dancers to be able to still do this even within this virtual platform, that it's like the possibilities are definitely still there. Because talking to some of my music people counterparts in my school, they're just like, there's just needs to be there's so many apps that you would need to get, 30 to 40 students all singing together. There would have to be a number of apps to get, 30 to 40 students playing an instrument together for it all to sound, cohesive. Whereas like bodies can move and you can, you know what I mean? Like it's just a little bit easier for us. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think, I've been thinking about this a lot. And I'll try and enter it from two different contexts. So I agree as far as with like the dance student and the training. There's, there was this huge free accessible online Instagram, Facebook, Zoom, classes that are donation based on this sliding scale, which I think was, the quick Band-Aid of not to drown, right? That we have this radical shift within the field. And, and I'm referencing, concert dance field training and profession. And so that was really inspiring to see. But just like you said, Daryl, how sustainable is it, right? And to what forms is it sustainable to? But on the flip side of that, I also know, dancers who are able to tune in to different countries to have access to some of these other lineages of dance and to reconnect with their cultures in a way that wasn't maybe imagined before. Like to have this online platform that, hey, you can connect with this company in Brazil and really work on those foundations of this specific dance, right? I think that is incredible. And then on the flip side, I'm like, we're teetering as far as like the professional concert dance field, which I'm like a little bit excited about, if I can say that on air.
Yes. Yeah, say what you want. Yes.
Meaning that, these big, large companies that we have been closely looking at as far as like, the big like ballet companies, the big modern companies, like while we're in this pandemic, we're seeing like different theater spaces close, different companies losing millions and millions of dollars to their company. And, these are the companies that might be continuing to reinforce different stereotypes and to uphold different oppressions, and like sexism, racism, classism, and they contribute to those systems. So for me, of course I have loved ones that are a part of these companies. And of course there are different lineages and traditions and like legends attached to some of these companies. But also like maybe they need to fail and fall to let individual dance artists come up to the surface so that these donors end up giving their $10,000 donation to an individual dance artist, a freelance dance artist, and start to distribute their funds to these, independent dance artists who are thriving right now. You're in, I'm using quote home space, not to assume that everyone has that space, but where if you want to create something, maybe you can start creating something, or not. But, that's sort of my hope to see all of this. But I do think that it will take time, truly. Like you said, this kind of backslide that people don't want to see these systems fail.
Yeah.
But these systems have been holding back, like we have some amazing work happening within the, contemporary dance field in the underground scene that deserves funding and like, and dance that I have never even seen or experienced that's happening that should be amplified and supported. And so, that's my hope, but I think it will take some time and some consequence as we are seeing everything right now with these systems around us being pushed and challenged. And, but then what does that mean for our sustainability right now? Thankfully, if you're a educator, instructor, like those systems are still in place for right now. Those were the people that were guaranteed, financial stability during our shelter-in-place months. Mm-hmm. I can't say that that's the same for, freelance artists who depend from gig to gig and right. And then even companies, I know, by now some seasons are over. So then it's like, what's happening now? So it's just like all of this rupture, man.
Yes. Yeah. Like it definitely brings to mind this idea of utopia that it's like you never get there though. And I think there is that misunderstanding that it's like, no, once you think you've gotten there, you've completely missed it. Like it's something that we are always working and pushing and striving for. And because I'm like, you have to, and I think I said this in one of my classes within the past week or so, that what we, like clearly not the pandemic part, not this part, but where we are currently was somebody else's utopia.
Yeah.
Like technology wise, technique wise, like how we're able to move our field, we've reached somebody's version of it, but it's not ours. So we can't stop here. We have to keep going. Oh, that was a word. You better go ahead, girl. Bars. Yes, bars. Hey. But it's like there seems to be this idea of we need to get everything completely locked in again. And I'm like, okay, but that may have been part of our problem. Is that I don't even know that dance is supposed to be locked in like that. Yeah. I don't know that I agree with that mentality that we should be so stuck in a certain way, because just even looking at concert dance and how that has impacted academia. Yeah, we've been stuck for a while. How's that been working out? So maybe what we need is to be unstuck. And yes, it sucks that this was how it happened, but honestly, would it have happened any other way?
Right. Right.
Yeah. No, I don't think it would have at all. And like you were saying, Mindy, like I think that it's right now being in those as a teaching artist in the education field and having that kind of security, you're right, it was, but just having my staff meeting that we had today, and talking about the future and like the uncertainty of what the fall will look like, with all of the recommendations, how will that work, and will teaching dance like look the same? I believe it will, but like when will it look like it looked prior to March, for us? And I don't know, but I think this could be opportunities, like you guys are saying, like these could be opportunities for it to be kind of turned on its head and just kind of like, okay, let's fix some of these gaps. Let's fix some of these problems that we've had with, accessibility within the schools. Because I think dance probably was, I feel like dance was less accessible prior to COVID-19 than it is now. Like, I think there are more ways for a young dancer to see and experience dance, like in more ways than what I think I could have offered within our four walls of, my classroom. Now they're able to explore other rooms and other things that, for whatever reason, like, talking to Tamisha, she said a great thing today. She's like, they're able to see things that would have cost a field trip that we wouldn't have been able to afford to go to, or we'd have to fill out paperwork to try to go on, that now they can see it just from their home. So I think they're just able to see a lot of really some really great things. But yeah, I do worry about the sustainability. I am also, like you were also saying, Mindy, about like these bigger companies and like what, what this experience might be like for them and what it might mean for other artists. Because it's going to be very hard for them to bounce back. And I think it's going to be, if these larger companies bounce back, I think it's going to be because of these smaller independent artists who were able to still get out there to, other local places and still get out there and teach and work with other people, to where that, if these larger companies come back, it'll be, I think, because of smaller independent contracting artists. I don't know.
Yeah, that they're like, absolutely, because all of company members are now on their own private Instagram, building the audience up. They're having a more intimate exchange, or even on Zoom. While it's missing a lot of sensations that we're used to being in like a studio space, there is this other different kind of intimacy where we're like in our home space with these other professionals or instructors. And I agree. I mean, that might completely be the thing that saves them, building this kind of new audience from this virtual space, that they'll make the return to a physical space.
Right.
We'll just have to see.
Yeah.
I think by far the thing I miss the most is just being in the space. Because I'm like, it's so important. But I will agree that there is more access to being able to see a wider variety of things that it wouldn't have been possible. And I think one of the things I'm wondering, that I think we touched on a little bit earlier, if not, bring it up now. But once, let's say all of this was great and over by January. I don't think it will be, but let's say it was.
Yeah.
How many of these things will still be in place in addition to opening back up? Because I think ideally a balance between the two could be very beneficial for the field and for students. But I don't know how reasonable that is. Like, I don't know what type of financial sense that would make for anybody. Because if I know I can take this class for free or for $5 or whatever I can donate online, why am I paying you to come in? Unless I am one of those people who I'm like, yeah, but no, I really kind of need to be in the studio with you. So I don't necessarily have a suggestion, but it is a thought that has crossed my mind of how.
But I wonder if we end up with like this new type of generation of dancers, where it's like, those that are really passionate about it are going to want that studio experience. And so they are going to pay the money to go in and do the class. But let's say if you're just looking for something that is more or less like extracurricular, or something that you're just a passion of yours that you have and you want to try to like get back into it or get into it, then taking that for free class. Because I kind of even think too, like, just being completely honest, I know my caliber of teaching online is probably not the same as my caliber of teaching when I'm face to face.
Oh, child, I know mine isn't. I'm raggedy online. Ooh, it is not fun.
And so I think it's like that. When you want that experience, right? You might be willing to pay a little extra, take maybe a little bit more of a risk to come in and actually get that from an instructor or a class, as opposed to getting it online. So I don't know. I was just thinking maybe that might be if we were to kind of keep some of these things in place, I wonder if it'll kind of differentiate between like the caliber of dancer, the caliber of artist that you will, the caliber of audience that you will even get. And even differentiate between what you offer. You know what I mean? Like maybe what I offer online is not what I offer in person on purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with capitalism.
Yeah.
Like I'm just, because it's true, like thinking, I mean, that was a great point. Like, it's like, how do you bring people back into the space? Because, all I know from teaching, or what I know best, is being in a space, a shared space with other people physically. But I think like, okay, well, we just have to cut everything in half. Like, we're so used to like, it's all about numbers and money and how to capitalize off things, and we need more people to come to this school, and then I'll get a pay raise and things like that. But maybe we just return smaller groups, or we rethink what a space looks like. But I definitely agree with both of you that it's probably going to be an integration of both, right? That we're going to see that it's almost that the labor dancing body is going to have to do twice the amount of work on this interface, plus a physical space. We're going to be asked to do more, and maybe not necessarily be paid more.
I'm leaning towards there would not be more payments. I'm leaning heavily towards that belief, because and I mean, that's a great point to bring up. Like, just the way things are set up here.
Yeah.
The focus has, as long as I've known, always been on numbers. And that can be private studio, that could be in free public education. Numbers are important.
Yeah.
And while we value the intimacy of having smaller numbers and really being able to delve into things deeper with a smaller group, that's not necessarily conducive to us maintaining any type of lifestyle where we don't live in a cardboard box. and that's a little concerning, because it's like, okay, so how exactly do we get past that part? Because again, I have no solution for that, because I am genuinely concerned for how that looks. I know, like, one of the suggestions for the college is like splitting the classes. And this is, I said I agreed to it because I was like, well, I don't have nothing else. So I hate to be the person who's like, I don't agree. I don't have no solutions though. But like, let's say if I teach Tuesday, Thursday, then Mindy's group will be with me on Tuesday while Daryl's group is watching online. Okay. And then on Thursday, you'll swap places. And I'm like, I don't know that I have much faith in my capacity to do that. But we're going to find out really soon how that's going to work, because I'm like, I don't, because like you both said, like, that interface is different. And I can guarantee you I'm not making more to do both of the things. So it's like the laboring dance body is going through. Yeah. So it's there's just so many parts to it,
and it's hard because some an outsider might think, oh, we'll just put a camera up in the studio and the students at home can just kick it in the hallway, and
right.
And it's like, no, let's talk about politics of translation. Like, it doesn't translate the same. You can't assume that everybody has the same amount of space.
Right.
You can't assume that it depends on where they are at home, if they share that space with other people, if they can dance at that time in that space. Like, there are so many other things to consider based on an individual that like, it's like you said, truly, it's like, what's the solution? I don't know. We have to like test all these things out. It's going to be like a year of investigating and failure and hopefully some success.
It's going to be a lot of trial and error. It's like, we tried this. No. Let's not do this again.
Yeah.
but we tried.
I just hope that the people are listening. You know what I mean? The people who are really making the people. People, are you listening? I just hope they listen. They are listening to everyone with, and I'm just thinking now about my students, just with like the students in mind, not necessarily about like, yes, it is going to be a lot on us. Yes, it is going to suck. It is going to suck. Like I'm gonna get my mind right on that for this fall. That's just what it's gonna be. But glad that I'm still able to do it, and
for sure.
And that when the thing that they offer does not work, that I am heard and like, hey, this isn't working, and we need to kind of change it for X, Y, and Z, and be flexible and open up. Because I feel like sometimes you get like very like egotistical people that feel like this idea was the best idea and it's the only way to do it, and then like when you tell them no, it's not working, they're so headstrong on making this idea work that it's like, then you spend months doing something that isn't productive for anybody. So I hope that it has to be an open dialogue between all parties involved on how this will all pan out.
Here.
Because if not, it's just going to be a waste of everybody. Like, I feel like, my last couple of months, although I feel like I had some small successes with people, I just felt like for the most part it was a waste. It was.
Like, I know you did your best. I know you did good.
I did, and I did a very. I mean, I did a virtual concert with my students that was like really awesome, but it's the accountability piece that I feel like really just did not connect. And I think it definitely goes back into like, this politics of dance, right? Just politics of education and politics of everything. It's just like, and the topic of accessibility, we think that our students, that, we live in such a digital age and that we're so beyond where we were when we were probably all in high school, but these kids don't know anything about technology. They absolutely know nothing about it. They can work their phones, but beyond that, it's like, I don't know what this huge monitor screen thing is. I don't know what that is. Like, you want me to type? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I think that, I hope that the world, or at least the U.S., is seeing how we're not prepared for something like this. We're not technologically prepared. Students are not technologically prepared. Schools are not funded well enough with the technology to do this. And I think everybody thinks that we are just like, we're just so fast. You know what I mean? We're just so fast paced and we're just so ahead of our times. But I think we're just, if anything, I feel like we've gone back several years in that realm. And so, yeah, I'm just blabbing.
No, I hear you. Like a great point.
Very, very great point.
Yeah, it'll just be, Yeah. This will be
I will say this fourth quarter was not the business. I was angry this whole time. And it's from the parent side of this. It was like, yo, there had to have been better ways of going about this, guys.
Yeah. And
it was very much build this plane as we fly it. And I'm like, that's how people die. Like, I don't.
Oh, no.
I don't want to be on this flight. Like, I'm going to need y'all to have this thing fully functioning. Or at least put me on like a little propeller thing. Like, I don't know. But what happened was wild. And then there was so much confusion at the end. Yeah. I am still technically confused. Yeah. I still don't really know what happened. And this is after speaking with teachers, emailing my kids' teachers. And it's just like, what? This is so I can only imagine being in the midst of it. Bless you. Because like my teaching experience online was easier because there were no stipulations I had to meet. It was like, look, just grade them kids fair. Be nice to them. It was like, okay, I can do that. That's no problem. And so I made the decision that I wasn't going to do a whole lot of in person because there were some that like they either didn't have a device that was going to be reliable enough. They weren't sure what their connection was going to be like. They're taking care of their younger siblings who are now home because can't nobody go nowhere. Their parents are essential workers. And I'm like, baby, look, I just need you to submit a video. I'm going to grade that. It's fine. I got you. And it worked well for this group, but I do know going into the fall, well, first of all, they definitely have said we're going to be on campus so far. And I was like, oh, y'all about to just have me out in the streets. That's fine. But in the event we do have to switch part way, I do feel that more interaction would be preferred for me. Mostly because I don't want to watch videos anymore. It just, I knew better. I didn't like it when we were in person. I didn't like going back and reviewing videos. And usually I would just keep the videos because I'm like, okay, when I finish grading and you're like, oh, but I think I did great, I can run it back and be like, did you see this though? You forgot a whole 64 counts out of 64 counts. So no, you didn't do great. Here's the proof. But to actually have to watch, and maybe I just do it wrong because if I'm watching the video, I'm watching the video and I will pause it. I will stop. I will rewind and make sure that I saw every single thing I could. Cause I'm like, I'm gonna get you as many points as I can. Let me make sure that knee was actually bent because I said it was supposed to be straight and it looked bent, but I'm a double check. So we're going to run it back. Right. Because maybe that's a point you can get back. I'm helping. And it is
knocking those points off.
But man, I'd be demolishing people. So I'm like, let me try to help you out. But then that means I'm watching.
I need to make sure my knees are straight in your class.
Like I ended up watching one video like 5 times, and I'm like, I don't think this is how this is supposed to go. Like this is more work. So I think I would prefer to attempt this more. But again, it goes back to okay, well, what do they have available? But I guess we're going to find out within the next month or so exactly what's going to be happening. We're supposed to find out Monday. I also need to read my emails.
Yeah, we're supposed to have a plan. We're supposed to have a plan out on July 1st as to what things will look like for at least the beginning. So
I'm gonna ask you off air.
Okay.
I got a question. I got a question for you, but I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna circle back to it. All right, so. I did have one more. We'll throw this one more random question in. We won't linger on it. But do you think it is at all possible to fully remove politics from dance? And should we?
I don't know. I'm like, oh no. No.
I'd be out here with these questions. Sorry.
I mean, I just don't think it's up to us. I think that, there are so many, like I said in the beginning, so many things attached to how people show up and view a body, period, and then how you carry yourself and the choice you make, that even if it's unintentional, I feel like it's just always going to be there. As far as like, I just think of, I just always think about like the Super Bowl big halftime. It's called halftime shows.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who's performing, but there's always a negative comment on the dancing the next day in the papers, even with Maroon 5 and him taking his shirt off and dancing. Yeah. Like there's always going to be this like pushback. And, when I think of politics or the political, that's relating to public affairs or relating to different ideas and strategies. And that, for me, in my opinion, it's always going to be there. And for me, I'm glad that it's there because it gives me something to push back up against and like advocate for. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that kind of like along the lines of what you're saying, that, some of those.
Y'all hear that thunder though?
I do.
I know.
Like
it's cue the thunder.
Yeah, I think that those, even in those instances, like the Super Bowl halftimes, like sometimes those things are done to make those statements, right? And I think that they're able to be made through the dancing that people need to see, and things need to be experienced. And so sometimes, when people aren't hearing it, maybe they just need to see it. And so I think that,
bars come through. Come through.
Yeah. So I think that I think that it's important, and I think that it shouldn't go away. And like you said, Mindy, I think when the body is political, and I think people are going to interpret it, however, and just, we carry so much that, I don't know, that we, just bring in our own experiences to different things that, I think we just don't have a choice but to have that be a part of dance.
Yeah.
I think some people choose. I'll throw shade. I think some people choose that this isn't going to be political, and that we're just going to put on the pink tights, and we're going to put on the little booty shorts and sports bra on the 3-year-old, and we're going to push him out to the stage, and we're going to have all the people in the audience take a picture, and like, it's not political. And I'll be like, I will write a book about that moment.
But it still is, though.
Proving that it is political. Right.
Yeah.
But it is, though.
Right.
Because I agree with both of you. No matter, because of the body, no matter what we do, there will be something political about it. And so it may just be, okay, well, do you take ownership of what it is that you want to try to say and try to convey? Or do you just kind of, let it go? Or do you actively say, well, I'm not going to? You still are by saying that. It's still it's still happening. It's literally still happening, but let people believe what they need to believe to sleep at night, I guess, for right now. Yeah. We won't flip the tables today, but eventually
we'll still make the work we want to make.
Yeah. But do you think we have a group? Do you think now people come to shows and concerts already with some type of like, what are they trying to tell me? What am I? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, do you think there's still people in the audience that are just like, because I think even for them to say, well, I didn't get it, kind of says that there was something that you wanted to get out of that. It might not have been what I don't know how to say it. It might not have been something that I wanted you. I know I just saw some lightning too. Yes. It might not have been what like I wanted you to get, but like I don't know. I just feel like people are left with wanting to receive something, which to me says just the audience is coming with wanting to put maybe their own politics or their own like their own selves into that space.
I would say I definitely think some people do show up with the intent of applying their own personal politics. I'm gonna say it like that. And so even with the I don't get it, I do appreciate that perspective because I've never thought of it as okay, but that's still kind of like your own opinion coming in. Like you may just have not gotten what you thought you were going to get.
Yeah, right.
But I think okay, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that I think this, and as I say it, we're going to see if I correct myself. So I think there are more people who come into seeing dance that are open, but there are also still those who come in already kind of predetermined. But there are those who come in with it's an expectation, and it's circling back to that idea of dance being for entertainment purposes. And I think some of the I don't get it comes from that if I go in thinking, oh, this is supposed to just, entertain me. For me, if I'm going to be entertained, I don't know that a deep think piece is what I'm looking for when I want to be entertained. That's not not my personal definition of entertainment. I'm looking for, happy and, jazzy and sassy and all those types of things. Bright colors, lovely movement, nothing too dark, nothing too heavy. Because in my experience, those were the pieces that often got okay, I don't get it. And I'm like, but this piece that was literally, and I mean, I've made these pieces before that is like, okay, it's just all sunshine and rainbows, movement for movement's sake, of which there's nothing wrong with movement for movement's sake. Not saying that, but I've made them. And I'm like, you're not going to sit here and tell me you got that because there was nothing there to get. There was nothing there. I was just doing that because I like the song. Like, what?
Yeah.
And so I think just kind of coming in with preset expectations, I still think we may have a significant amount of audience that still kind of comes in like that. It's getting better. I would like to believe, at least from my experiences in this area. I've seen more openness, even between the two intersections festivals. Just the way the audience asked questions, how they engaged was different from my first time doing it to the next time. So it seems as though audiences are starting to open up more, but I don't think we're quite at majority yet. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I could go on and on. I think, I think it's context dependent, like we spoke about in the beginning. I think it just depends on location and how much the audience, it depends on the genre of dance, the location where it's happening, blah, 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 etc. But, as far as when I think about just like the general public and then I think about movies, I'm just like, I'm about to call BS on everybody because I'm like, you have no problem showing up to these blockbuster movies and, granted, there's so much other support that films can just kind of be the extremism of the literal, right?
Yeah.
And I do understand that then going to a space and seeing live bodies where, like, let's say there's no text or use of voice, but I just think that that's when the audience fails the art form, because they can come in and ignite and choose to bring in their imagination and to think, but then I think this is where I end up defining entertainment, is that it's something that's easy and simple to digest is how I consider entertainment. You know, I can take it in or I can tune it out.
Yeah.
And it's something simple to digest. And, you know, I think when it comes to dance responding to any kind of political moment, you know, I've seen works that, you know, I think that the general public considers, you know, abstract, or the works that are quote, quote, I don't get it, anything that goes against heteronormativity, right? Anything from the storybook narrative is going to show up for them to be like, oh, that doesn't need to show up in dance, or, you know, that was, I'm going to just call that abstract when I see a bunch of bodies rolling around on the floor, to where, you know, it might represent an orgy, like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's okay. So I don't know. I think that for the general audience, I think, you know, it has a lot to do with this idea of the literal and simplicity and easy to digest and heteronormativity. And, you know, I just want to hear the one story, or I just want to witness the one story, and I want to see the male and I want to see the female. I just want to see them.
Yeah.
That's it. But I think we're getting a little better, maybe.
Like there's some progress, I think.
There's some progress.
Yeah.
I think there's
not enough.
Not enough. Oh,
right.
No, definitely not. But I think, you know, we're making baby steps. I would love for us to make toddler steps, and, you know, eventually school age, and then adult
strides.
Yes.
Frolics.
It would be wonderful.
Yes.
But I'm like, okay, guys, I guess this is where y'all are. I feel like talking about audiences is like a whole episode, and you know what? Yay. Thank you for that next topic. Because, child, it bless them. Because we love to have them, but then I'm like, we got to help y'all out sometimes, because clearly,
right.
On your own, it is a little suspect.
Yes.
All right, my darlings, let's get to our, I know, it's so stressful. I'm so sorry. Oh my God. Okay. Our ultimate dance trio. Forget both of you for that. All right, so see, that's what y'all get. Now watch, this is going to be difficult because y'all were like, hopefully it won't be though. And maybe I'll be nice today. We can collaboratively answer this instead of both of you coming up with three.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so what are 3 things you believe dance artists can or should do to continue not only striving for, but also hopefully enacting real socio-political change?
Ooh.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, I sure can. I got you. So, full disclosure, my brain was still in the process of these PhD classes. I wrote this question. So, my deepest apologies, but I have faith in both of you.
Yes.
So, 3 things that you believe dance artists can or should do to continue not only striving for, but also hopefully enacting real socio-political change. Y'all can collaborate.
I have one that came right to mind, just because I'm in my own process, but deconstruct whiteness. Break it down, deconstruct it, move aside, let people through.
Mm-hmm.
Cosign. Yes.
Yeah.
More people need that message in their life, which is unfortunate that they need it, but
yeah,
here we are.
I would say to continue any and all conversations with any and all people. I think sometimes we can put ourselves in echo chambers and like surround ourselves with like, you know, people that we're like, oh my God, we all are, you know, speaking the same language and we're all, you know, kumbaya. But, you know, sometimes it's nice to get that person who's, you know, just a little, whose scale is just a little bit on this side, just to for, if anything, to maybe it's to educate them, you know what I mean? Maybe it's just to make sure that to get a perspective, another perspective. Because I think if we're all, you're not going to bring about any social change if you're just talking to the people who have the same social ideas. You know what I mean? Like, we're not changing our minds. Our minds are already made up. The real change needs to happen with people outside of our circle. So, you know, sometimes that takes, you know, branching out into other circles, and really kind of, and having those difficult conversations, like I said, with any and all people.
I agree. To that point, Daryl, oh my goodness, there is so much value in talking to someone who is rational with a different opinion, because I can't spend that energy on irrational. I can't. But I will either learn something and be like, oh, maybe I was wrong, or you will help me refine my case. That I'm like, oh, maybe I wasn't clear enough. Let me explain it this way. And whether I convince you or not is neither here nor there. But you will either cause me to question, which everyone should frequently just kind of turn on the inside and ask some questions, or you're going to help me sharpen. Either one is good for me. And I can't get that in an echo chamber. I can't get that from people who are just going to tell me, yeah, you're right. Like, what do I, you know, yes, it feels good, but what am I gaining from it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, we need one more, guys.
I got one.
Okay. Yay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm using all my D words. Okay. Decolonize curriculum, meaning, you know, stop saying that ballet is the foundation. Stop it.
Yes. Please.
Stop.
And thank you. Please and thank you in advance.
Yes. Just stop. It's not the foundation. Decolonize your curriculum. Create space. Bring in new. All of it. Newness.
And that's for all levels of this field.
Yeah. Because then you'll start inviting and expanding, experimenting, experiencing newness and not newness. You know, just get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Like, these things can coexist if you let them. And bringing in something new doesn't always mean that you're throwing out what was old.
Right.
I mean, I might, though.
Right.
To be fair. To be fair. I might, though. But I could also just be shifting it over and just making some more space.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
All right. Yay for a trio. They're like, yes, collaborative trio.
We did
yes.
it. We did it.
All right. Thank you again, Mindy, for joining us. You are always a pleasure.
Thank you, truly, and Daryl. It's such a pleasure.
Yes.
And I hope that we return in a few months to see where we are. Like,
oh, yes.
I would love to return to this idea of what's the future and where are we right now.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
All right. And thanks to all of you for joining us again here at Dance Talk Realness. Please be sure to follow us on all platforms that we are on: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, you
yes, because I never remember to say it. Apple Podcasts. If you have any questions for me, Daryl, any of our guests, you can drop them under the YouTube videos. You can drop them on Instagram, Facebook, anywhere that you can reach us, and we'll make sure to answer them and to also pose those questions to our guests and to let you know. So we look forward to bringing you some fresh new content next week. See you then. Bye.